to the frozen shoreline of the Beaufort Sea. A solitary tower breaks the stark wilderness. Evidence of the Arctic explorers of the 20th century. Men who probed the Arctic Ocean floor in search of oil. Oil at latitude 70 north. Here in the Canadian Arctic, where temperatures can plunge to more than 70 degrees below zero, an offshore drilling rig of Imperial Oil Limited bites deep into the Earth's crust beneath the frozen waters. It is supported on an artificial island, a man-made mound of silt and gravel that must resist the fierce press of Arctic ice that holds sway here for more than 9 months of the year. To build this island, called Netserk, and others like it, this experience beyond the Arctic Circle was to stand the company in good stead on one of its most challenging projects, the building of these islands for offshore drilling.
Ice problems in the future.
The concept was simple enough. Create a solid working platform of sand, silt, and gravel, rimmed and reinforced by sandbags, in relatively shallow waters from 7 to 25 feet deep.
2 cubic yard sandbags and
but the logistics were formidable.
Of the island proper.
The brief Arctic summer allowed no more than 80 ice-free days for construction, from mid-July to late September, if they were lucky. And the site lay more than 2,300 tortuous road and river miles from Vancouver. The first leg stretched over 1,200 miles by road to the town of Hay River on the Great Slave Lake, where a staging and assembly area was established. The final leg of the journey would be by water, 1,100 winding miles northward on the mighty Mackenzie and out into the Beaufort Sea. In 6 short months, Northern Construction had to plan, design, build or buy, and transport to the Arctic no fewer than 35 major items of specialized marine and excavation equipment, including a steel flotilla of tugs, scows, barges, and launches, representing an investment of more than $15 million. Most of the major components were fabricated in Vancouver, many of them so massive that wheels were welded directly onto the steel sections for the road journey north. Piece by piece, section by section, the fleet of vessels was trucked to Hay River for assembly and outfitting. This was Halfway House, the end of the road, the beginning of the river. With the coming of spring, the Hay River assembly area became a world of clinging gumbo. But the Armada was taking shape. It included 5 of the largest dump scows ever built in Canada. Big-bellied vessels nearly 200 feet long, each with a capacity of 2,000 cubic yards. Beside the scows grew the squat bulldog shapes of 4 new 1,500 horsepower tugs. 7 would eventually work on the project. Rugged, shallow draft workhorses, able to ply the shifting sandbars and shallows of the Mackenzie Delta. Each fitted with the latest electronic equipment, essential to survival in the uncertain north.
They that go down to the sea in ships and occupy their business on the great waters, these men see the works of the Lord.
In mid-June, a simple dedication ceremony launched the first completed tug into the Mackenzie River.
Grant them the sense of thy presence when they are...
will take 10 days to reach the delta of this stretch of the largest river system in North America, a vital transportation artery of the Canadian North. And in Vancouver, early July saw the last and strangest vessel in the construction fleet begin its long journey north under tow. She was christened Sinigtarpuk, an Eskimo word meaning home away from home. For this former U.S. Navy barrack ship was to be the floating home for 120 men of Northern's construction crew. Beneath its slab-sided, ugly duckling exterior was a $1 million refit of bunk rooms, lounges, game rooms, mess hall, kitchens, and offices. Tethered to an ocean-going tug, the project's floating headquarters would travel 4,000 sea miles around Alaska, through the narrows of the Bering Strait, past the tip of mainland Russia, and out into the ice-packed Arctic Ocean, heading for the construction site. As Sinigtarpuk, usually called 208, made her way through the northern ice, summer had come for its brief visit to the Arctic, and the barren lands blushed with a sudden rainbow of flowers. There were other birds in the Arctic air as barrack ship 208 took up station in the gray shallows of the Arctic, bleak and blustery even in the short summer season.
The offshore ice is reported to be coming in at the rate of 1 mile per day. It is now in the vicinity of 6 miles.
Aboard 208, the final construction strategies were planned. This island called Netserk was one of several islands to be built by Northern Construction under its contract with Imperial Oil. It will demand 450,000 cubic yards of fill. A day and night procession of dump scows, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, each dumping a 3,000-ton load of silt, sand, and gravel onto the ocean floor before this 2-acre island is complete. The bulk of the material comes from undersea gravel beds 20 miles from the island site, taken from the ocean floor by a 3,000 horsepower rotary suction dredge. This was no random choice for dredging. The location, like every other phase of the project, was governed by concern for the delicate ecology of the seemingly barren north, from the tiny organisms on the ocean floor to the herds of white beluga whales that breed in the bay. So this seabed sludge of silt and gravel went from dredge to transfer barge, from barge to dump scow, and by dump scow the 20 wave-tossed miles to become the foundation for a new dot on the northern map. This is a treacherous sea. Caught between polar ice and the warming landmass, it can be blanketed by fog with frightening speed. And shallowed by centuries of silt from the sprawling Mackenzie Delta, the sea may be only 25 feet deep as far as 8 miles from shore. Here, closer to land, depth sounders show as little as 5 feet of water. There is no leave for the tug crews, From early June until first ice, they will tow and push the laden scows to the site of Netzer. And slowly, the island inches its way above the waters of the Beaufort Sea. Discomfort becomes a way of life. The slightest wind whips these shallow seas into roller coaster waves and chilling wind-blown spray. If the new island is to survive, it must be protected. Protected against erosion and the coming crush of ice 5 feet thick. So its base and seaward side are buttressed by sandbags. These are no ordinary sandbags. Northern's engineers tested the strength and durability of different materials and then developed this massive hopper. It fills double-layered polypropylene bags, each with an appetite for 2 cubic yards of fill, 54 times the capacity of a standard sandbag. The hopper disgorges them like huge silver slugs, each bag 3 bloated tons in weight, to be hefted by smooth-faced tongs into the waiting scow. As the weeks pass, Netzer takes shape, an oasis in the silt-gray sea, fussed over by helicopters and surrounded by a consort of vessels. While Imperial Oil Limited discovered oil in a well drilled from an earlier island, the planning, expertise, and long weeks of work are no guarantee of success in this distant search for new energy sources. But the island and the investment grow, sandbagged against the encroaching sea like a colony of sleeping walrus. As the perimeter takes shape, a brigade of equipment fills in the soft center of Netzer. In time, it will rise 15 feet above the surface of the sea, and the waterlogged silt will freeze rock hard in the sub-zero temperatures of polar winter. As the days shorten, the Arctic weather bears its teeth, grounding helicopters and defying crew boats to land on the island. But Northern construction has a trump card, a hovercraft. It tackles a crew change in rough seas as routinely as a suburban bus handles rush hour. When the offshore winds drive the sea from the delta, the hovercraft is the only vessel able to cross the maze of shallows and sandbars and to take off-duty crews back to Barrack Ship 208. After 12 wind-chilled hours on the face of Netzer, 208 lives up to its Eskimo name as a home away from home. The food aboard is generous and good, and so is the cook. And while Arctic appetites leave little waste, any trash or refuse must be taken out by helicopter or service boat, 65 miles to base camp. Nothing is allowed to pollute the environment. Work continues around the clock to complete Netzer. A handful of acres in a hostile sea. A costly and difficult foothold in the distant north.